Hello, you're watching FPV by the Numbers, and I'm Kaz Walker. In this stream, I'm going to be concluding what I'm calling my Deluxe Tiny Whoop build, 2017 edition. Basically, what this is going to be doing is continuing where I left off on Saturday, because I cut the stream short because I couldn't quite get things working, and really, I should have just waited a little bit longer, because what ended up happening was as soon as I turned off the camera, I was like, oh, I should look at the manual just to make sure that I'm using the right channel. And as it turns out, the F1 channel on this particular VTX here, it wasn't Fat Shark. It wasn't the Fat Shark band. So I was listening on the wrong frequency with my equipment, and it didn't pick up the video signal. So I gotta follow the old adage of RTFM. So, yeah, let's get started by doing a little shot from the camera here, because this is all wired up. So, just to prove that I got it working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this little guy here, the battery. Just let that turn on, and I'm going to switch over here to the FPV view. So there you go. Look at that. Good video signal and everything coming through there. The colors are quite nice. Oh, do a little bit of inception there, looking over at the laptop. But yeah. So, and that's my GoPro. That's the camera that's producing the image that you usually look at. Sorry. So yeah, that's it working. So I'm just gonna turn that off. Then go back to my GoPro here. There we go. So this is the usual overhead view. So that's proof that it was working. So it wasn't anything that I did wrong. It wasn't a manufacturing defect on the VTX. It was just a defect within my process of not checking the manual. So yeah, if you're ever doing this kind of stuff, just read the manual. It'll save you so much time. But it kind of worked out anyways, because that was at the 3-hour point, and that was a bit of a long stream. So moving on, what I'm going to be doing to finish this off is I'm going to be wiring the SmartAudio cable to the buzzer minus pin. If you paid close attention in my first live stream, I said I was going to solder it to the plus pin. I looked up some more information, and I made a mistake. CPU pins are wired to the negative leg of the buzzer, and they usually have an additional little circuit that allows them to, it's a collector, and it allows it to pump out more amperage. But the signal should work. I'm not entirely sure about that. It's going to be a bit of a test. Hopefully I don't fry anything, but if I do fry something, then you know what not to do. So that's helpful. Anyways, let's get this started. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna throw the sticky tack underneath this, get it into a nice stable position here. I'm gonna take this connector out of the camera. I don't want the camera being around while I'm soldering, because you know, if I accidentally splash a bit of solder on the camera, bridge the components, I want to try and minimize the damage that could be done. So I'm even going to go as far as to put the lens cap onto the camera. That way no solder lands on the lens by any flukes. So that's why I'm doing that. So I'm just going to kind of measure out this wire, see where it's going, and I'm going to cut it with some extra length here. So see, it's got slack, so I'm going to give it a cut about there. I'm not cutting that close to the board. I don't know how that appeared in the shot, but the tips of my clippers were nowhere near touching the components. So if anybody was freaking out, like, oh my god, you're gonna knock off the components, don't worry, it's all good. I kept distance there. It's just depth perception is a bit of a challenge with this camera angle. So I'm going to use the fingernail technique to kind of strip the wire here. Yeah, there we go. Not quite enough. And yeah, there we go. That's better. That might actually be just a bit too long. I might have been good the first time because this, I have to keep in mind that this is a pretty small pad that I'm soldering to. It's probably about 2 millimeters across, so very, very tiny. Maybe not even, maybe it's just 1 millimeter across. Yeah, probably closer to 1 millimeter across, 1 millimeter circles, so pretty small. So, if you've watched my technique on soldering, you'll know that I'm gonna flux up the wire first, and I'm also gonna turn on my iron now so it can preheat. I didn't want it preheating too long in the background there because I don't want to oxidize my tips. So just getting some little light coating of flux on the wire there. There we go, that looks good. Now I'm just gonna bring the strands back together. That's good. I'm gonna close out the flux here, or no, not quite yet. I need a little bit more. I'm gonna grab my handy dandy push pin, which is my flux applicator that I use, my makeshift one. I'm just gonna get a little ball of flux on here, and sorry, my head's gonna be in the shot here because I want to see what I'm doing. But I'm just gonna place the flux down on the minus pad, the one we're gonna be soldering to. And it's not really working for me here. So I'm gonna move it down towards the tip of the pin, just so it kind of falls off. There we go. It's actually quite a bit of flux for this kind of solder job, but what can you do? When you're working with parts this small, you're probably gonna end up with a bit of extra on there anyways. But one thing you want to be mindful of, when you're doing that is how much solder you're using. So, oh, I didn't wet my sponge. I cannot clean my solder as well as I want to here. Sorry, you're gonna hear some running water. Just wetting that sponge down. Sorry about that. Okay. Just gonna dry off my hand quickly here. All right, so good to go. So basically I'm going to be tinning the pad and then tinning the wire. So how I'm going to be doing that is, now that I've fluxed them, I'm going to, yeah, nice and clean. Now that those parts are fluxed, I'm going to put a bit of solder on the tip of my iron and then transfer it over to the wire and to the little pad there. So I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the tip of my iron, and I'm going to switch hands here. And now I'm going to just tin the tip of this wire. Just wrap it all around, make sure it has solder on every side. There we go. Nice and shiny silver. Perfect. So I'm gonna leave that little bit, or take off that little bit of solder, just put it back there, back into the sponge. There we go. Now I'm gonna just wipe that off. There we go. Perfect. Oops. Just get that over there. And now what I'm going to do is put a very, very tiny amount onto the tip of the iron, and then I'm going to use both hands and come in from a very steep angle here to avoid bumping other components. And I'm going to just place the corner of the soldering iron onto the pad. I didn't actually place it on there while I was doing that there. And that's going to transfer a small amount of solder onto the pad. So, or at least that's the idea. Because I want to be very, very careful with this. I don't want to put too much solder on there and potentially bridge it. So, bridge the pad to anything else. It looks like the nearest component, just looking at the traces on the board here, it does look like the nearest component that I might solder to is the pin, is where the pad is connected to. One of the legs on a tiny little, some sort of IC there. So, hopefully, even if it does bridge, it's not going to be too bad. But here we go here. So I'm just going to come in from the top. Make sure to keep that steep angle so I don't solder to any other component. And it looks like there's not quite enough solder on my iron. So I'm gonna have to do more, which didn't really want to do, but yeah, sometimes there's just no way to help it. Make sure it's on the tip of the iron too. So just take a bit off onto there. Too much. So yeah, this is definitely a more difficult way of doing it. I do have a smaller soldering iron tip, but it's heavily oxidized at the end, so I don't think I can really use it, but there we go. So being really steady there, I managed to get solder only on the tip, or only on the pad, sorry, so that for the person who left the comment asking for me to show how I solder such a small pad, that is an example right there. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the wire into position, and I'm just going to find a place where it wraps around the components, and it also kind of keeps how the wire is kind of flayed out, or flayed out. It's going to keep it pretty contained onto that solder pad. So what I'm going to do is I've ripped off a little piece of the sticky tack that I'm using, and I'm going to put it down over the board, and that's going to act as a clamp on. So let me just lift this up, get this really close so you can see the wires coming down on the pad. I'm gonna bump it away from that the plus part of the plus buzzer pad, because I only want it on the negative pad. So I'm just going to get my tweezers in here and do some fine adjustments, and then squish that down into place. So it's and just kind of form that just so there's the kind of putty holding it in place. So there we go. So that looks good. It's definitely a little hard to see on the screen here, but I think that's going to be good. See if it works out here. It looks pretty well centered. I'm very happy with the positioning of it. So I'm gonna add just the slightest touch of solder on the end here, just so it's enough for the iron to kind of have more contact area with the wire. So I'm gonna have both hands on the iron like this, so I'm really stable. I don't want to be bumping any other component while I'm doing this, and I'm gonna make sure that that this sticky tack is really in place there, because I don't want it moving either, because that's just as bad. So let's get this soldered. And I think that does it. Like that's all it takes, just a quick touch. Because when you've got those pre-tinned and the wires are this small, it does not take much to get it on there. So it is indeed soldered. I can put a bit of weight on it. So, and looking at the sides, I can tell that it went shiny all the way down to the pad, and it did not touch any other component. So there you go. That's how you solder onto a small 1mm pad there. So if you're gonna do the uninversion hack with the RXSR receiver, it's going to be a very similar process, but that is how you would do it. So moving on, now that is all nice and done, I already have soft serial configured for that buzzer pin. Oh, I just forgot, I have to put my iron in storage mode. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Just clean it off here one last little bit, and then I'm going to leave the protective coating of tip tinner on there. Just pop that open, slide it in shot here just to show what I'm doing. Well, apparently I don't quite have the length on my power cord to do that, so it'll just be out kind of in shot, but just a little bit out. I'm just gonna stick the tip of the iron in there, get a little bit of solder on the tip there just to prevent some oxidation. But, there we go. Oh, I turned the iron off already. I was wondering why it wasn't quite picking up the solder, and I realized that's why. So, yeah, turn the iron back on and try that again. There we go, much better. There we go. So now it's actually producing a nice little coat of solder, and that's going to protect it. I'm just going to take the excess off and kind of swish it around in the spirals, or the brass curls there. But you see how it's super shiny and you can see a bit of solder on the tip? That's how I like to leave my iron, because it acts as a protective coating. Or at least that's what I've heard. If it's wrong and I'm doing something entirely wrong, again, let me know down in the comments below, because I read all the comments and I try to respond to all of them in a fairly timely manner, so I appreciate all advice. There we go. So let's do a little test power up here. So I'm gonna add the camera back in. That is wrong. No, that was right. Felt like it was going in at a weird angle and bending pins, but it was not. So one thing I noticed is that when I first plugged this thing in, I was getting a really washed out pale video signal, and just from when I powered it up here, and the image you're seeing on screen is pretty different than what it was looking like not too long ago. So I'm gonna switch over to the FPV view here, or what I call my FPV view, which is different size with me up in the corner there. So yeah, this is looking good. And there's around my apartment, looking at the Mac there with all of that. Yeah, it looks good. Like the video signal looks much less washed out. See how it's going white there over by my stove, and under my countertops here. Like that's what I was seeing all over. Like it was just so white and washed out. It was just a bad image. It wasn't really that flyable. But this is actually looking quite nice. You can see the detail over there by my desk. Yeah, it's looking good. So I'm just gonna unplug that. You're gonna see a no signal. Don't worry, that is totally intentional. Actually, it's not intentional. I shouldn't do that. Sorry. So I'm going to switch back here, and you can watch me put it all back together. So I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to assemble this as quickly as I can, because I don't want this to be too long of a stream, because this is really just supposed to be the conclusion of part 2. But what we were checking there is I forgot to mention this, is with that wire soldered on to the VTX, we didn't blow anything up. So it was still transmitting, and it's still on the Raceband 1 channel, which is where I had set it. So that's something to note. Hopefully when we plug it in and look at the OSD on Betaflight, it'll also report that. So just there's a way to put these in, because yeah, this open area at the bottom of the board here with the USB connector, or opposite to the USB connector, that has to go. This pin on the E10 frame needs to go there. Otherwise, it's not going to fit. So, just lining up all the motor connectors. Gonna grab my tweezers here and use those. Just pop those in. That's that side done. Half the motors are in. 3/4 of the motors are in. I need to twist this one around. Oh no. Come on. It's always the last one, isn't it? It's always the last one that's like, I'm gonna be stubborn. There we go. Okay, so now it's in. Sorry about throwing it down. That sounded kind of loud, but hopefully it's not too bad. Headphone users probably screaming at me. Whoa, why'd you throw stuff down on the table? Sorry. Because I listen to my video primarily with headphones after it gets uploaded, because I watch it all once it goes live, just to make sure it's looks and sounds as good as it can, and that's how I do. That's how I base my changes when I change stuff. So if you don't use headphones and you use a sound system or something like that, or computer speakers, and I screw up stuff in the audio, let me know, because that's, again, super helpful, and because I don't have all those playback devices for myself, so I rely on the comments of others. Get the battery connector tucked back down in there. Use the tweezers. There we go. Back through. There we go. Get the other rubber stopper in there. Rubber standoff. It's not really a stopper at all. Oh, one fell off. Okay. There we go, that's pretty much lined up. Perfect. So, not that it's perfectly lined up, but it's just lined up. Okay, so yeah, the wires are finding their path back to where they need to go. Nothing's being pinched, nothing's being stretched and about to rip or anything like that. So that is wonderful. Had the music a little louder this stream. I noticed it was a little quiet. If you like the music volume, let me know. I think this is a good place for the music volume, but we'll see. Come on. Sometimes getting these screws lined up with these parts is just a bit of hit and miss. I got those first two pretty quick. This last one, oh, speak of the devil, that last one is in. Okay, so I'm just gonna crank these a little down a few turns more, just to make sure they're really sunk in there and the screw is biting into the plastic. That way I can survive any crashes. So the other thing I noticed, because I did a few little flights, victory flights, after I got this working, what I noticed was that the antenna was getting really bent back in a crash, to the point where I'm a little bit worried that that this solder right here, the solder that connects the ground, the shielding of the cable, basically this wide solder that you see, not the little point down there, but this wide solder, where it was getting bent back, and that was going to be stressed, so I was a little worried about that. But yeah, so the solution I've come up to address that is just to put on the little guard or protector that I was talking about before does add a little bit of weight, but makes me feel much more comfortable about the camera, and especially if I'm flying under obstacles, like just clipping the camera. I don't want to clip that antenna, and it's also just something that it can land on. So like you saw in the screenshot of the last build, I added that on, even though it was never in, you never saw it on camera, but I added it on later. So, but that is why. So this should now be in a completely flyable state, fingers crossed. So let me just load up the battery here. Turn on Yieldy Tyrannus.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Get my tools and such out of the way.
Acro mode.
Slightly clean up the build area here. There we go. Have to rename it from Super Whoop to Deluxe Whoop. I decided to go with Deluxe Whoop because it reminded me of pizza, and I love pizza. And Deluxe is it's a good type of pizza. So and you know, it just kind of captures the whole spirit of this tiny whoop, is that it has all the features. You know, it's got the OSD, it's got the switchable VTX, and hopefully that switchable VTX will be working with SmartAudio. So let's plug it in, because oh wait, I'm going to switch over to the other view that I was talking about before. That way you can see the boot up screen too, you know? Because it's funny, my best friend, he really liked the boot up screen. Aw, you didn't see the boot up screen. Okay, so that kind of sucks. But the little beta flight, how it has that come on. Let's see if I can get the beta flight to come up if I reboot it. Man, I get a little worried about this battery connector because it seems like I'm going to pull it off sometimes. So
telemetry lost.
So let's put it back on there. So will
telemetry
show
recovered.
beta flight? No. It takes a little too long to show the beta flight logo, or well, for my equipment to register the signal and then show that. So that's unfortunate, but so I'm gonna give this another shot. I gave this a shot before, flying off the video I have here, because it's a pretty real-time feed, but like it's just not an angle I'm used to. So oops. Bump my Tyrannus into the desk here, or into my table. Sorry about that. Sorry for the loud clunk on the audio. But I'll see if I can fly it through here, because there's not too much delay. Like there is a bit, but it's not too bad. So
engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Okay. Nope. Still not able to do it. Oh, all the way down in the corner. That's hard to reach. Okay. So, oops. I'm a little unprepared here. I forgot my goggles. So I'm just going to go grab my goggles, but I'll be right back. Stuff falling about here. Okay, so I've got my goggles, and I'm gonna throw the battery in here, plug in the fan lead, and plug in the goggles. So there we go. Oops. Oh good, it's not on that camera, so I didn't shake any views or any camera stuff. Okay, so oh, that is weird. It's my Fat Sharks. Maybe I've accidentally cranked the brightness. Oh, I cranked the brightness on my Fat Sharks. That's totally what it is. Okay, so I just did the brightness on my Fat Sharks, because that was where that washed out picture before was coming from that I talked about. So I must have done that by accident. So that's good to know. All right, so I'm gonna take off from the floor instead. There we go. And oops.
Engines armed.
Yeah, I'm already low voltage because I was just broadcasting video with this battery, but yeah, as you can see, this thing flies really nicely, and I am in acro mode here, but I'm at full throttle, and it's
Engines disarmed.
there we go. Yeah, I killed this battery with just having the VTX on for too long, so something to keep in mind, you know, like with these batteries the size they are. You know, like keeping those on is just gonna bite into your flight time a lot. So yeah, it looks like this battery is actually kind of damaged. The connector's coming off a touch. So that is something I'll have to look into later, because that's it's kind of worrisome because these are brand new. So they're tattoos. They're supposed to be really high quality. So I'm just gonna throw in a new battery here. Bear with me, sorry. Okay, and I'm gonna plug this little thing in here.
Telemetry recovered.
There we go. And put it down onto the launching pad that is the floor. Oh, okay. Oh, that's what that is. I was trying to figure out what that ticking sound was. It's just a cable. Oh, need the fans to kick in here. There we go. Okay. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be in acro mode.
Engines armed.
Oh, almost
Engines
did the flip.
Disarmed.
Where'd it go? Oh, right at my feet. That's convenient. So, pretty much did the flip there, almost.
Engines armed. Engines disarmed. Engines armed. Engines disarmed.
Okay, I'm going too aggressive here, but it's just so much fun. It's kind of hard not to, because I just wanna whip this thing around, just like vroom vroom. Okay, so I did knock off the camera protector, so I'm gonna leave that off. Gonna shave the gram or so that it's less than a gram that it's taking up. Hopefully that'll give me a little bit more, power on this thing.
Engines armed.
There we go. Whoops. Come on, fly through the camera gear. There we go. Woo! But yeah, this thing is awesome. Woo! Oh. Woohoo! Whoops.
Engines disarmed.
Caught on a cord. Well, how low did we drop there? 3.3? Not bad, but as you can see, this thing is flying. That weird camera angle is gonna bug me, but actually, I'm going to pull that thing out because I don't want to run down another battery like I did. But yeah, this thing is freaking awesome.
Lost.
Like, yeah, this. Oh wait, I have to test the OSD. So let's see if changing channels works on the OSD with SmartAudio. Because if that works, then it's official. This thing is the deluxe tiny loop.
Telemetry recovered.
So to get into the OSD, I'm just going to, what is it? Yaw left, pitch up. There we go. Yeah. So I think it's under features. Yeah, there we go. So it's going to be under SA. This is the Triumph or Triumph one. This one is the TBS SmartAudio, hence why it's SA, so that's the one you're going to be using. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's connected. Okay. Womp womp. So it's not quite the ultimate tiny whoop I was hoping for. I'm gonna dig into this and see if I can figure out. My Tyrannus has a low battery. I'm just gonna turn that off here. There we go. So yeah, not quite fully functional, but close. And as you can see, just the way that this flight controller makes this tiny woot fly, it is just a ton of fun. Like, this thing, I am going to spend a lot of time flying this around, because it's like as you can see, like I could get in between my head and the little gaps here, which are about a foot across or smaller. I could fly through my lights and stuff. It was just so much fun. And since it has the ducts, it's, you know, you can just bump off of stuff and keep going. So yeah, it's great. So I'll do another update, because I don't want to spend too much time digging into the SmartPorts or SmartAudio stuff with the soft serial, because I don't know how long that'll take, and I don't want this to be a session. I just want this to be more of a conclusion. So that's gonna wrap it up for this live stream. I hope you enjoyed the little flight around my apartment, and yeah, if you haven't done so already, this is kind of the format I do, kind of off the cuff. It's a live stream. So if you enjoy that and you enjoy frequent videos being posted, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I try and do 2 to 3 live streams a week, and I try and stay really or fairly current with my content and what's coming out. So yeah, consider doing that if you liked it, and if you really liked it, maybe hit both the subscribe and the like button. And if you didn't like it, please consider leaving a comment in the comment section to let me know what I can do better, instead of just hitting the dislike button. Feel free to hit the dislike button, but I would also ask for just a little bit of feedback to know what I can do better. That way more people will find this content appealing. Anyways, that is going to wrap it up for this live stream. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for taking the time to fly around my apartment with me, and I will talk to you all later. Bye bye.